but we do know there's stuff missing, and the Department of Justice seems to be deliberately hiding it and playing, with the help of the Republican Congress, misdirection. One of the dumps of the Epstein files a few weeks ago was simply about Bill Clinton. It was so transparently political. And, Allie, that's where we are again today. An attempt to shift this focus on the Clintons, even though we know President Trump has privately expressed some concern about this, because by putting the spotlight on the Clintons and making them sit for these depositions, like, well, OK, why not President Trump? He even had more of a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. I know you're heading to Chappaqua in Westchester County, north of here, where the Clintons are. Talk to us what we should expect.
I think you're right to bring up the hypocrisy that this then raises, because it raises the question of, if you want to talk to former President Bill Clinton, which I think there's some valid questions to be asked. He appears in photos. Let's ask those questions. Why are you then not asking the same of President Trump? I've asked James Comer, the chairman of the Oversight Committee, that very question. He doesn't have a clear answer. In fact, he said, well, the president has talked many times on the record about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. OK, hasn't done that under oath to Congress. I think that's probably a valid conversation to have. And then I think there's also a fascinating dynamic of Hillary Clinton once again being forced to answer for her husband. That, I think, has a ton of gender dynamics that we won't get into before 7 in the morning. But I think there's also then the question of, if we are asking spouses to talk about what their husbands might have been privy to, why are we not also asking Melania Trump that question? She has correspondence that is in the Epstein files with Ghislaine Maxwell. That's just one example, right? So I think it does open the Oversight Committee and Republicans on that committee up to some valid questions. And I think you only further see the politics of this by the fact that last week, when the Oversight Committee went to New Albany, Ohio, to talk to Les Wexner, Comer and Republicans were not physically there. They sent lawyers themselves, and that happens in Congress, especially for depositions behind closed doors. Sometimes they want lawyers who are actually trained in doing cross-examination to do these kinds of depositions before and if they make something public. But for Comer now, going to this closed-door deposition in Chappaqua, why are you coming to this, but you didn't go to Les Wexner's deposition? I think that's one of the questions that I want to ask the chairman of the committee as well, especially as you consider what they're likely to get from this, and then the Clintons' desire to make it public at some point.